What I wanted to do as far as the discussion goes is it's not really meant to be a discussion about the movie itself. It's meant to be about some of the issues that may be raised in it. Now, the film was basically about a pretty dysfunctional family, so we probably don't want to resort to murder and things like, some of the issues of dementia, dealing with the elderly in different aspects, and who takes care of things, and should a person be institutionalized, and so on and so forth. Those are the kinds of things that I wanted to throw around. So Diane has had experience with the elderly and all kinds of other folks, so take it away.
Because you mentioned dementia, the first thing that came to mind was this gentleman in the movie didn't even appear to be having dementia. He was just like kind of frustrated, looking out, what can I do, how to interact, and one of my major concerns with that issue is that if you look at medications, a lot of medications make people look like they have dementia, and they don't really have dementia at all. They have to you speak to some of the doctors and you'll find out that they are aware of that, and that they have to change the, dosage of them. And sometimes people are given too much medication according to their weight and their height in every medication, and of course, you metabolize differently. So you're finding people being put in places and diagnosed improperly, and then when they may be put in a nursing home or something, they're put in another situation where you have an issue where the people who are working there are actually stealing things from those people, and they're not really being put in a good place where they can heal. And some of the people are very uncomfortable with having male nurses washing them. They don't want to have a male nurse wash them, or come in to see them later and say, oh, I'll see you a little while, and they go, oh no, you're not going to touch me, because it's very uncomfortable. There are lots of privacy issues that are taken away from them, as well as clothing and nice presents that family has brought them. And it's very disturbing, because there are families where you find the family becomes more like vultures waiting for the person to die. Whether the person is aware of it or feels it, you don't always know if that's really the issue, because let me put it to you this way. What I have experienced is many times when people are close to death, they become a lot more psychic and more sensitive to things around them and the feelings of others, but they're also picking up on other entities on other levels. And because of that, there's a lot of vibrations showing. So you're finding people, like even on medications, are going to have issues if you're in a nursing home or whatever, by the same token, so that they're going to be, more sensitive to issues, but the nurses aren't answering the call bells. 3 o'clock in the morning, they're sitting there yakking and talking. There are nursing homes, they're not doing anything. There are other nursing homes that are right on top of stuff. You come in and you find there's urine smells all over the place, BM smells. People think they're putting their parents in a better place to be taken care of, and they're not. And it's really disturbing. Even places that are called rehab centers are sometimes nursing homes. But by the same token, you have other places where they're trying very hard to change it. They can keep the parents in their own home and having somebody come in and help them out. But then by the same token, these people have to go through a process of making sure they haven't had any issues beforehand, because some of those people are not trustworthy either, but some of them are extremely trustworthy. So that's very difficult for people that are older people nowadays than it has been in the past.
Well, we had that issue with the movie Enraptured that they were in as well. What? That talking about the daycare nurse, the person that comes in to the home, and this guy was experiencing all sorts of psychic visions and whatnot, and he saw this nurse has Virgin Mary and all that kind of thing. Remember? That's in Enraptured. You had that other movie.
I'm sorry, I'm suddenly hearing is impaired.
Oh, okay. I'm just mentioning the other film that we're doing in the series, and the other film that I produced is about this daycare nurse that comes into another man's home, and he's developing this sort of psychic reserve in his mind. And she was just mentioning that as people are getting older, they tend to be a little bit more receptive in those kinds of things.
Right.
Now, I happen to think of a friend of mine that has issues with, and I'm trying to think, she has to take pills for, not a nervous disorder, but to calm herself, you know, to become,
Less sensitive?
yeah, that would be one way to put it. Help her sleep better. It's not tranquilizer, but you know, help her sleep better, help her to stay calmer and not get so nervous and all that kind of stuff. And she said she had been taking pills along that line, and I don't know what kind of medication, but she said she hadn't dreamed for years, and then when the medication went down and actually she stopped because she's no longer needed, all of a sudden she was able to dream again, and she felt that she was getting more sensitive to things like a psychic self, you know. And then she's not elderly; she's middle aged, but you know, medication can do that to you. It can knock you out.
Yeah. Good job.
You had mentioned to me before about your concerns
Do you want
with
to add it or something?
with medication and nutrition. That they sometimes kind of fight each other the way.
Yeah, they do, and sometimes I'm finding a lot of clients are very upset because their medications, they don't even dissolve, they come out solid, nothing's happening. And a lot of people, a lot of doctors, the doctors, my belief is, should be working with the clients, not just saying, this is what you do, I'm God, I'm the boss, you have no ability or choice to say anything. And the issue is that, you know, like I've had doctors where I've been able to bring in another book and say, look, you know, this is not working for me. I'm small and I weigh so much pounds. This is like for a person could be for 6 foot tall and weigh big, and there's no, you know, the same pill goes for everybody. You can't do that. It doesn't work that way. And medications like vitamin B12, in working in the psychiatric field as well, there was one doctor there that found that he treated his clients with B12 and they were fine. It was better than the drug issues. So you know, what were we gonna say?
No, go ahead.
So there are some, how do I say, places where you can go to groups and become, what's the term I'm looking for? Go to a seminar and they're saying your kitchen is your medicine cabinet. There are certain foods that balance you out. Like for instance, the biggest thing right now is blood thinners. And some of the blood thinners like Coumadin are actually still used as rat poison. Well, you know, there are certain foods that actually have the same effect as aspirin, which one of the researchers I was supposed to do when I was in college for my professor is to find out what exactly does an aspirin do. That's the purpose of it. It makes your stomach bleed, okay? So people were dying from aspirin a day. Coumadin overdoes the bleeding internally, and then you can have orange, and it also makes your stomach bleed. There are certain foods that do that, including alcohol. That is why when your stomach is warm after you drink it, it is actually bleeding. So you know you don't want to overdose your Coumadin with something else, and the doctors are still playing around. They don't know. You go into, I took a gentleman to a place where the doctor was checking the Coumadin levels, and he says, it's terrible. They don't know what they're doing. He was bleeding from his ears and his nose. His blood was so thin because of the amount that they were giving him. It's really inappropriate. So it's frightening a lot of people when I go into places and see them, and they'll say, I think they're just killing us off. There's something really not right here. They're not taking good care of us. Or, you know, and it was not a nursing home, it's a place, an apartment building where they have to go to the doctor. They need to have more people that are advocates for the elderly, and they listen to what they're saying. They don't, you know, do harm to them. What are you going to say? Go ahead.
Could I add something to this?
Yeah.
Please.
All right. My observation, and I think it's valid because my next birthday I'll be 90 years old. And I have no aches or pains, and I do not take any medicines.
That's good.
And my viewpoint, after looking at many cases of older people who are living helpful, energetic lives without a lot of aches and pains, etc., there are some rules that they follow that, and they minimize their drugs that they take, minimize, and they maximize their exercise, including simple things like walking rapidly, and trying in every way to do that every day, walk some. And they look carefully at the foods so that they do not eat junk foods, but they eat wholesome foods and fresh vegetables and fruits, etc. And a peace of mind, that's so important. So many people have worries and anxiety, and they take drugs for them. But if you can maybe practice meditation, or simply learn to control your thought processes so that you are at peace with yourself and the world, you will find your health is much better. The amount of drugs you have to take are fewer and fewer, and you'll live a longer time.
I would totally agree with that. You're right on top of everything. That's exactly true. What I'm seeing with other clients that I have had that are becoming more nutritious, eating healthier foods, less junk food, less greasy meats and stuff, they are feeling better. And actually even animals, a lot of people who have a little dog or a little cat, they have become actually their caregivers in some cases. I go to one client, and when I come in, today was a little late, the cat actually goes, like, you know, and walks right in there, and, you know, like, okay, feed me now. And then they just kind of watch their mom, and they go, meow, like, come on, let's go take your shower now, you know, it's time now. And that's important to the person as well, because that animal is so loving and so caring, and it's right there for you, and just kind of like, okay, come on, let's go. And the dog said, come on, take me for a walk. You know, and that's your exercise, and your breathing, and your fresh air, and interaction that stimulates your mind a little bit once in a while, whether it's reading a book or watching TV or just having somebody to talk to. But something that's not, you know, you have all these things in some of these apartment buildings that they can do, and it's like there's nobody to communicate with that they have as a friend. I mean, it's like a high school. They want to find somebody to share with, you know, whether it's a pet or what. And there isn't any reason they shouldn't, you know. They shouldn't be closed away and put someplace. When I was younger, my second job was to work in a nursing home, and I thought, you know, they were very, very, I thought it was the best nursing home there ever was, and I assumed they were all that way, and they weren't. And I was not very happy with that. But the unfortunate thing is that one gentleman came in, and this was at the time prior to, you know, they had people always living at home with them, and the family would take care of them, and they were just starting to do nursing homes because some families didn't think they could do that anymore. There was one gentleman who came in, and he was from a foreign country, and he was speaking his old language, but once in a while he would speak broken English. And basically what he said was, You put me here to die, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to talk to anybody, I'm not going to eat anything, and I'm not going to drink anything. And that's exactly what he did, and he died.
Yeah,
And that's very frightening.
Your mental state is very important.
It really is.
Yes.
It really is.
You live a lot longer and a lot healthier.
You're right. And people need to have something where they can get together, whether it's knitting or crocheting or watching movies or, having discussions.
Being with other people
Yes.
is important.
It really
Yes.
is.
Your fellow man.
It really is. And it's real important too to have transportation, and there are more people that have more transportation now than they used to be with the wheelchairs and stuff, the electric chairs. They never had that before. But the problem is too is that I'm hearing from some of the other agencies is that once the county gets in, look out, you don't have your person. That shouldn't be that way. They should give them more perks to be able to interact, because they have so much to offer society, so much knowledge and background and stories and life.
And when you're talking about perks, chances are you're talking about and the county, which is a government,
Right.
to do something, and you're talking about asking the taxpayers to foot the bill. That's always a trial.
But there are some people that, oh God, and I hate to even go out there, but there are some agencies, like they'll come in like a hospice,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and they say we're here to help you, and I have interviewed some people who have come in with, just had little booths and you talk to them, and I really get very angry because a long time, and I get really emotional about it. A long time ago, my uncle was very ill, and I was with him when he went across to the other side. And they were giving him morphine because he was in a lot of pain, and it was not pleasant crossing for him. So because of the morphine that they gave him, when he was ready to go, he yelled for me, okay, and I came into the room, and he was screaming, and he was going, "Oh!" And it didn't make sense to me, and I said, "What is wrong? What's wrong?" He says, "I see all these ugly faces and monsters, they're trying to get me," and I says, "Okay, hold on to my hand as tight as you need to, and we'll talk, and I will protect you, you're here, you're okay." So my hand actually hurt, he squeezed it so tight, and he kept yelling, and I explained to him, because I'm sensitive, that my grandmother would come and she would smell roses and she will take him to the other side. That's what I mean helping cross, okay? And then I smelled roses, and I explained to him that she was there, and then he let his hand loose and he relaxed, and the disease that he had, you could see pop up and his body went down. It was really weird because it was always even, and then the disease popped up in his body. He just released himself and he left. And the house seemed to have like a fog in it, in that evening. And he came and he asked for the waters, which I said, I don't drink water. I can't give you any. Well, that ran into some more spiritual things like the waters of life, which is your electromagnetic field. It wasn't strong enough because he'd been given so many drugs. He had been depleted, his spirit, and he needed lots of prayers. And the good end is I learned the prayer, I kept praying for him, and he made it over, and I know that for sure. But the fact of the matter is there's so much we don't know because we are a lot more complicated than just the physical realm.
Two things I should have added before,
Okay.
when I was talking about living a long time with health.
Right.
And one is communicating with your fellow man.
Right.
That's very important. And the last, but the most important of all, is spiritual things, which you just touched on.
Right.
Which means that you believe there's a loving God that's going to greet us when we leave this mortal body. So, in the meantime, we're blessed that we're here, and we should make the most of it and of our powers that are given to us. And that's basically what I wanted to add to the discussion.
I would totally agree with that.
We should wrap this up. Are there any other questions or anything you want to add as far as final statements?
Probably when you turn off the camera, I'll be yakking.
Yeah.
I think people basically you're not any different when you're older. You really aren't. You need to be appreciated. And what I noticed in the film, which really scared me and made me upset, is like the Orientals, they respect their elderly. And we're not, you know, and the gentleman, he just needed, sometimes people need to be alone. Sometimes I've been like that, where I just need to just sit in front of the water and just watch the waves and just meditate. That's what you were saying, a form of meditation, right? And that's important for you because you are communicating on another level with the higher being, with God. You know, the spiritual level.
Well, in the film we see this scene where the older man is talking to this younger lady at the bar, and all of a sudden he sees himself as this guy about 30 years younger dancing away, you know, because his spirit is still, that's what he sees himself as. You know, he's still there, just that the body isn't quite up to it.
And you're right.
But you know, the personality, that he's still there, you know.
Exactly.
Just put on a few wrinkles.
And she made him feel younger and more vibrant and excited.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's one of the therapies some of them people are doing. They're bringing young babies or young children to places where the elderly are to interact to help them feel better.
Don't forget dogs and cats.
Well, yeah, you're right.
They're doing that at the airport now as a way
good.
of calming people at the airport. They have dogs you can pet.
That's neat. And
So that's
Sure.
sort of new.
And birds are like that too. I've seen a gal who had a bird and she was fighting with her friend or her sister, and the bird was getting all upset, and he
Squawking.
yeah, well, he tried to get in there, and I said, you have to get down on the floor and then walk. So he went down, and then he walked over there, went over by her, and went up to her and went go, and you know, it made her feel better. It made the bird feel better.
We didn't mention that before, but animals are wonderful companions
Oh, yeah.
and give us a great deal of love.
I agree. I don't think we really appreciate them because I think if you really pay attention and you listen to the birds, they're really there to help us. I mean, they just kind of guide us like, stop, don't go, you know, like kind of thing. They're amazing, the dogs, the cats, everything, the deer. You know, it kind of upsets me a little bit, more than a little bit. This deer came to the church next door to where I live, and the people didn't know what to do, so they shot it and killed it instead of capturing it and put it out in the wild. It's like, there's something wrong with our society. We really have to work together and find a way of changing things and making people have the awareness, not just once in a while, but together, all of us. You know, and eating properly, that's really important, like you said. And there's so many fresh fruits and vegetables that grow wild in our backyard, and we're killing them and we're not eating them, and we could be helping us heal. What were you going to say? You were going to say something?
Well, you know, we have smartphones and radio communication. We cannot see the waves, we cannot hear them, but we have an instrument that changes them so we can see and hear them. And that's the same with our spiritual thing. It's an unknown, it cannot be seen, but it's there. It's there, and our minds and our souls are able to communicate, even though we're not aware of it.
That's